Tippy time, my damies, Top Cat here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are back on our Arc Warlock on the build I'm calling the Corrupt Nezaric. This thing is crazy because Bungie have gone ahead and updated one of the most underrated exotics in the game in my opinion. We are using the Necrotic grip, the perk Grasp of the Devourer. Damaging combatants poisons them, dealing increasing damage over time. Defeating a poison combatant spreads this condition. This also is going to provide a moderate benefit to airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons of sorrow, but additionally now our glaive does this effect. The melee damage from the glaive does this effect. This is consistent free damage that procs on every swipe of the melee attack, so how can you say no to free damage like this? This gives you the ability to hit something in front of you, the corruption effect goes off and stuns the thing behind you, so they're very good at just wading into a pool of ads and not really having to worry about it. It's so much fun. For my glaive, I've opted to use the Nezaric's Whisper, being that this is an arc weapon. It synergizes well with my Arc 3.0 Warlock. I'm using tilting at windmills, blocking damage with your shield increases movement speed whilst shielding, and Unstoppable Force, blocking damage with your shield increases projectile damage for a short time. I like this combination mainly down to the shielding factor. I just feel the shield is a lot stronger, so this is a 1600 Nightfall I'm in, and I feel more than comfortable just jumping in the pit and slashing things up because I've always got that really strong shield whenever I need it. But I've also got the additional movement speed, and then just the corruption effect from slashing and dashing. It seems to hold up in all manner of content. So very, very good combination for this exotic. Another exotic I was hoping it might synergize well is the Touch of Malice. This has a bonus damage with the Weapons of Sorrow. So you shoot the charge with Blight effect or something, and your Striga and Thorn will do additional damage. However, this doesn't seem to be the case with this. It still seems to do the same level of tick damage, but it seems to start at the higher value, so it is still good, but I wouldn't say it's stacking the same way as the Thorn and Striga do. For your standard melee, you can use either Ball Lightning or Chain Lightning. I'm preferring Chain Lightning, as it is more just like in your face and direct. I don't really feel the need to use Ball Lightning as it is more of a ranged melee, and I'm already going to be using another ranged melee for this build. We are going to be using the Lightning Surge. So whilst we slide, we activate our charge melee, and we're going to blink forwards and jolt all the targets. Now this is mucho fun. It just allows me to close that gap and get into the combat sooner. You know, particularly with a glaive, you sometimes feel like you're just running head first at the group of enemies, and they might kill you before you even get a chance to attack them. So with this, it just allows me to lunge straight into the combat, get that corruption effect off, and that way I've got a one-up on them because the necrotic grips work with this arc aspect. Now we are going to want some tools to give us a bit of resilience, so we are using Spark of Resistance. Whilst we are surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. Now this fragment will allow you to tank an extra 30% of the damage, but once it does proc on the bottom left of your screen, it is only available for about 5-6 seconds, so you do need to get in there, do your melee, and then get back out of town again. We're also going to be running Protective Light, very, very important. We are running a charged up, so we have additional charge with light, so that way you can make the most out of the stacks that is given to us, so we can tank a lot more damage. But resistance will stop you from getting to red bar. Just in case shit goes sideways, you've always got that Protective Light in your back pocket. We are also using Electrostatic Mind, so defeating targets with our arc abilities, or targets that have been either jolted or blinded will send us an Ionic Trace. Collecting Ionic Trace is going to make us amplified. Amplification is going to make our melee bigger, but it's also going to make us a lot speedier, which we always want. You know, you're running around with a stick trying to kill people with guns, so speed is always great, and it gives you that added weapon handling. Feel free to use whatever grenade you like. I'm preferring Pulse Grenade on this build, but it's mainly just to get those Ionic Trace speed back to you, as we are using Spark of Amplitude. Rapidly defeating targets whilst you are amplified creates an Orb of Power. So we get that trace, get amplified, run in there with our stick, and just melee things down, and we're going to get orb after orb after orb. So this is very good. You don't need to put a mod on your helmet. We can just do this through our fragment slots now. We want all these orbs for our protective light buff. We've got supercharge, so we can go up to ×4 charge with light. That way it's going to give us heaps of stacks, so we can be extra strong when we're running in here like a nutter. We will also be using Spark of Beacon's Arc Fragment. Whilst you're amplified, your Arc special weapon Final Blows create a blinding explosion. Now this works well with our glaive, of course, but additionally quite often I'm using Storm Chaser, and I dare say you are too, so it's very good to use this like from afar, blind everything, then run in there like a nut. Now the last fragment that we're going to be using is Spark of Momentum. So sliding over ammo bricks reloads your equipped weapon and grants a small amount of melee energy as well. This is actually really good, particularly with your glaive. They don't tend to have the best reloads unless you run something like Grave Robber, but I like tilting too much to do that. So momentum, really good. Get into combat, kill a bunch of things, see the ammo brick, slide over it, and you're back up with a full mag again, ready to go. Also the additional melee energy is great. That way I've always got that slap when I want it. Now feel free to use whatever jump, rift and super you want. It doesn't really matter too much for this build. I've used both the standard Storm Trance and the Kamehameha Beam. They both work just as well as each other. So it really just comes down to preference of play. It might depend on the mission you're doing or just your general play style. So yeah, mix it up, have fun. But being that we are a necromancer using necrotic grips, it only makes sense to use the Osteostriga with the catalyst. You're going to get fed ammo back when you get poison kills. We're using the Screaming Swarm, so it fires a stream of sentient toxic bullets, very good, and you got like 108 bullets in the mag, you know, so love this things to pieces, and it just makes so much sense to run with our necro build. On my helmet I'm going to use Radiant Light. I want that plus 20 strength for my lightning surge, and I'm going to be double stacking linear fusion rifle ammo finder. Taking charge, 1 melee kickstart, protective light, void resistance, and thermoshock for solar and arc resistance. Swift charge, that way our Striga kills are gonna charge us with light, linear fusion rifle scavenger, and an invigoration mod as well. Supercharge, get us up to ×4, charge with light. 1 amped up, this will push up our amplification by 5 seconds. And a bomber mod, this will just reduce our grenade cooldown when we're using our class ability, but I'll swap this out with surge detonators in in-game content. It appears Bungie has finally sorted these grenades, and they seem to work reliably enough these days that you don't need to run an overload weapon, which is just great, as it just allows me that freedom of weapon choice when it comes to in-game content that you want from these mods, you know. In summation guys, this is my Corrupt Nezaric build. Essentially I got a big stick, I run around, hit things and they get poisoned, and I just love it to pieces. I'm well surprised at how well this build actually works, that I've finally got to build a melee based build at that I can use at 25 under light and get away with it, you know. Anyway my damies, that is the build for today. Thumb it if you liked it, sub if you're new and you liked it. Chuck any questions or suggestions in the comments down below, and until next time, tippy tie my damies, what a tie.
Bottom of everything, he's the most tip top.